What would you do if your stepmother stole your dead mother's wedding dress and wore it to your wedding to go viral on TikTok? I never thought I would have to fight my own stepmother for my dead mother's memory, but here we are, 10 days before my wedding, and I am sitting in my car outside a bridal alterations shop with my hands shaking so hard I can barely hold my phone. Let me back up. My name is Charlotte Hayes, I am 28 years old, and I am supposed to get married in less than 2 weeks to the most wonderful man I have ever met. A pediatric nurse named Theodore Mitchell who makes me laugh until my stomach hurts and who held me when I cried on what would have been my mother's 55th birthday. My mom, Eleanor Hayes, died 6 years ago from ovarian cancer, and losing her was like having someone reach into my chest and tear out half of my heart. She was my best friend, my confidant, the person who taught me how to be strong and kind and how to stand up for myself even when it was scary. The one thing I had left of her, the one physical object that meant more to me than anything else in the world, was her wedding dress. It was a vintage 1958 Dior gown, ivory silk with delicate lace sleeves and a fitted bodice that flared into the most beautiful full skirt you have ever seen. My grandmother had it custom made in Paris as a wedding gift, and my mother wore it when she married my dad in 1992. She looked like a princess in the photos, radiant and young and so deeply in love that it made your chest ache to see it. When I got engaged 14 months ago, the first thing I did after calling my dad was go to the storage unit where we kept mom's things and pull out that dress. I held it against my body and cried for 20 minutes straight, wishing more than anything that she could be there to help me plan my wedding, to hold my hand, to tell me everything was going to be okay. I decided right then that I would wear a dress on my wedding day, that it would be my way of having her with me even though she was gone. That was before my father married Victoria Bennett 2 years ago. Dad met Victoria at a hospital fundraiser about 3 years after Mom died. He was lonely, I understood that, and I genuinely wanted him to be happy. Victoria was 43 at the time, 15 years younger than my dad, with sharp features and the kind of aggressively highlighted blonde hair that looks expensive. She worked in pharmaceutical sales and had never been married before. At first, she seemed nice enough. She laughed at Dad's terrible jokes, she brought wine to family dinners, she asked me questions about my life that seemed genuine. But there were little things that bothered me from the beginning. The way she would casually mention how young she looked for her age, how men still mistook her for being in her 30s. The way she took selfies constantly, always angling for the best light, always posting to her growing TikTok account where she documented her life as an ageless beauty and stepmom to an almost 30-year-old. The way she would say things like, "Your mom had such a classic style, so elegant and understated," in a tone that made it clear she thought my mother's taste was boring. Still, I tried. I really did. When Dad proposed to her after 18 months of dating, I smiled and hugged her and told her I was happy for them. When they got married in a small ceremony at a country club, I stood next to Dad and gave a toast about new beginnings and blended families. I told myself that Mom would want Dad to move on, to find companionship, to not be alone. The problem started getting worse about 6 months after the wedding. Victoria moved into my childhood home, the house where I grew up, where my mother had planted rose bushes in the front yard and where her recipe cards were still tucked into the kitchen drawer. Slowly, methodically, Victoria began erasing her. First it was the photos. Dad had always kept pictures of Mom throughout the house, not in some shrine-like way, just normal family photos mixed in with everything else. Victoria convinced him that it was unhealthy to live in the past and that they needed to make the house their own. One by one, the photos came down. Mom's favorite blue armchair disappeared, replaced with a sleek white sofa that Victoria ordered online. The rose bushes got dug up because Victoria wanted a low-maintenance modern landscape. I would come over for dinner and feel like I was in a stranger's house. But the absolute worst part was Victoria's obsession with my wedding. From the moment Theodore and I announced our engagement, Victoria inserted herself into every single aspect of the planning. She had opinions about the venue. I wanted a garden ceremony at a historic estate. She thought we should do a rooftop in the city. She had opinions about the flowers. I wanted peonies and roses like Mom had. She suggested orchids because they were more sophisticated. She had opinions about the guest list, the menu, the music, everything. And she made it all about her TikTok. Every dress fitting, every cake tasting, every planning session became content for her account. She would pull out her phone and start filming, narrating everything with that bright, artificial voice people use for social media. "Come with me to help my stepdaughter plan her wedding," she would chirp, angling the camera to make sure she was in the center of every frame. Her followers ate it up. She had grown her account to over 75,000 people who apparently loved watching a cool young stepmom navigate family dynamics. I asked her, politely at first, to stop filming our private moments. She would pout and say I was being oversensitive, that I should be grateful for the exposure, that some brides would kill to have their weddings documented like this. Dad would gently encourage me to let Victoria have her fun and remind me that she was just excited to be part of the family. But it was the dress situation that finally made me snap. I had told Victoria early on that I was wearing my mother's vintage Dior. She had smiled tightly and said something like, "How sentimental, I am sure it will be lovely after some updates to make it more modern." I told her firmly that I was not updating anything, that I wanted to wear it exactly as it was, as my mother had worn it. She had dropped the subject, or so I thought. 6 weeks before the wedding, I took the dress to Sophia Morales, a seamstress who specialized in vintage garments. Sophia had been recommended by 3 different people, and when I met her, I immediately trusted her. She was in her 60s, with gentle hands and the kind of expertise that comes from decades of experience. She examined the dress carefully, running her fingers over the silk and lace, and told me it was in remarkably good condition for being over 60 years old. "Your mother must have taken excellent care of this," Sophia said softly. "She did," I replied, my throat tight. "She saved it specifically so I could wear it someday." Sophia made a few small adjustments, taking it in slightly at the waist and hemming it to my height, but otherwise leaving it untouched. When I tried it on, I stood in front of the mirror and started crying. I looked so much like Mom in her wedding photos. It was like she was there with me, like I could feel her presence wrapped around me in the silk and lace she had once worn. "You look absolutely beautiful," Sophia said, dabbing at her own eyes. "Your mother would be so proud." I picked up the dress 3 weeks before the wedding, carefully packed in a preservation box. I brought it home to my apartment, the place I shared with Theodore, and hung it in our spare bedroom closet where it would be safe and ready for the big day. That was my first mistake, taking my eyes off it. 2 weeks before the wedding, I went to my dad's house for Sunday dinner, something we had been doing less frequently since Victoria moved in because the house felt so different, so wrong without Mom's presence everywhere. Victoria was in an especially good mood that night, talking nonstop about a TikTok video she had posted that had gotten over 1 million views. It was something about stepmom-style tips, and apparently her followers were obsessed with her. "You know," Victoria said, pouring herself a 3rd glass of wine, "I have been thinking about what I should wear to the wedding. I want to look absolutely stunning in the photos. After all, the stepmother of the bride is almost as important as the bride herself, right?" I felt my jaw clench, but I forced a smile. Most people say the mother of the bride is important, not the stepmother. Victoria's expression flickered with something cold before she recovered. "Well, I am the closest thing you have to a mother now, Charlotte, so I suppose it is the same thing." The words hit me like a slap. Dad cleared his throat uncomfortably but did not say anything. I excused myself shortly after, claiming I had a headache, and drove home with my hands gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. But that comment, as hurtful as it was, did not prepare me for what came next. 5 days ago, 1 week before my wedding, I got a text message from Sophia Morales. It was sent at 8:30 in the evening, which was unusual because Sophia typically worked during the day and rarely contacted clients outside business hours. The message was brief and cryptic. "Charlotte, I need to speak with you about something important regarding a dress. Can you call me as soon as possible? Please do not mention this conversation to anyone else until we talk." My stomach dropped. I immediately called her. "Sophia, what's wrong? Is something wrong with my dress?" There was a long pause on the other end. "Charlotte, I need you to stay calm. Your dress, the one you picked up from me, that dress is safe. But I need to tell you something, and I need you to understand that I am only telling you this because I believe you have a right to know." "Okay," I said slowly, my heart pounding. "What is it?" 3 days ago, a woman came into my shop. She told me her name was Victoria Bennett and that she was your stepmother. She had a garment bag with her, and when she opened it, I recognized the dress immediately. It was identical to your mother's wedding dress, Charlotte. The same vintage Dior, the same lace, everything. I felt the room start to spin. That's impossible. My mother's dress is in my closet. I can see it right now. That is what I thought at first too, Sophia continued, her voice troubled. But then Victoria told me something that made me realize this was a different situation. She said, and I am quoting her exactly, that this was her stepdaughter's mother's dress, and that she had taken it from storage several months ago to have it altered to fit her. She wanted me to finish the alterations because her previous seamstress, someone named Gabriella Reed across town, had done the initial work, but Victoria was not satisfied with the quality. I could not breathe. What are you saying? Charlotte, I am saying that the woman who came to my shop had the real dress, your mother's actual dress. She showed me the original labels, the custom stitching, everything. She had already had it taken and significantly to fit her frame. She is much smaller than your mother was. The dress had been altered months ago, Charlotte. She told me she was planning to wear it to your wedding as the stepmother of the bride, that she wanted to make a statement, that she deserved to wear something beautiful, and that your mother would have wanted someone who could truly showcase the dress to wear it again. I was going to be sick. And the dress in my closet? I cannot say for certain without seeing it, but based on what you are telling me, I believe Victoria must have had a replica made. A copy that looked close enough that you would not notice the switch unless you examined it very carefully. It is not uncommon for people to have copies made of valuable vintage garments, Charlotte. If she did this months ago, she would have had plenty of time. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped the phone. Why are you telling me this? Did she ask you to keep it secret? She did, Sophia admitted. She offered me a significant amount of money to complete the alterations and to never mention her visit to you. But Charlotte, I cannot in good conscience be part of something like this. What she is doing is cruel and wrong. That dress was your mother's, it was meant for you, and she has violated something sacred by taking it and altering it for herself. I refused to do any work on the dress and I told her to leave my shop. She was very angry with me. She said I would regret crossing her, that she had a large social media following and would destroy my business with bad reviews. She threatened you, I said numbly. Yes. But I am not afraid of her, Charlotte. I am afraid for you. I am afraid that this woman is going to show up to your wedding wearing your mother's dress, and that it will devastate you on what should be the happiest day of your life. I am sending you photos now, pictures I took of the dress before I asked her to leave. I wanted you to have evidence. My phone buzzed with incoming images. I pulled the phone away from my ear and opened them, and my vision blurred with tears. There it was, my mother's dress, unmistakable and real, altered and violated. The waist had been taken in, the bust adjusted, the hem shortened. Victoria's measurements, Victoria's body, imposed on my mother's memory. And there was a video too, a short clip that Sophia had apparently recorded without Victoria's knowledge. In it, Victoria was holding up the dress, examining herself in the mirror, and saying to Sophia with a smirk smile, Emma's mom would have wanted someone beautiful to wear it again, do not you think? It is such a shame to let a dress like this gather dust in some closet when it could be turning heads. My followers are going to absolutely lose their minds when they see me in this. The views are going to be insane. I hung up the phone and immediately went to my closet. I pulled out the garment bag and opened it with trembling fingers. The dress inside looked right at first glance, but when I examined it more closely, I could see the differences. The silk was slightly different in texture, shinier and less substantial. The lace pattern was close but not quite exact. The interior labels were missing. This was a copy, a good copy, but a copy nonetheless. Victoria had stolen my mother's dress months ago. She had replaced it with a fake. She had it altered to fit her own body. And she was planning to wear it to my wedding, to take this one precious thing I had left of my mother and make it about herself, about her TikTok, about her need for attention and validation. I called Theodore immediately. He came home from his shift at the hospital and found me sitting on the floor of our spare bedroom, surrounded by fabric and photos and tears. I showed him everything, told him everything, and watched his expression go from confusion to shock to absolute fury. She cannot do this, he said, his voice tight with anger. Charlotte, you have to tell your father. You have to get that dress back. If I confront her now, she will just deny it, I said, wiping my eyes. She will say Sophia is lying, that I am being paranoid, that I am trying to exclude her from the wedding. And my dad will believe her because he always believes her. And even if he does not, even if I get the dress back, it is ruined, Theodore. She had it cut and altered to fit her. I can never wear it now. It is destroyed. Then what do we do? He asked, taking my hands in his. I sat there on the floor for a long time, thinking. And then, slowly, an idea began to form. We let her wear it, I said finally. Theodore looked at me like I had lost my mind. What? We let her wear the altered dress, I repeated, my voice growing stronger. We do not say anything. We do not confront her. We let her think she got away with it. And on the wedding day, we let her wear it in front of everyone, on her precious TikTok live stream, and we let everyone see exactly who she really is. Charlotte, I do not understand. I stood up, my mind racing. Victoria is planning to wear my mother's dress to get attention, to make my wedding about her. She is going to live stream the whole thing to her 75,000 followers. But what she does not know is that I know what she did. So here's what we are going to do. I am going to have Sophia create a new dress for me, something inspired by my mother's but different, something that is mine. And I am going to act like everything is normal. I am going to be the perfect stepdaughter this week. And on the wedding day, when Victoria shows up in that altered dress, when she is live on TikTok in front of thousands of people, the truth is going to come out. How? Theodore asked. Because that dress is over 60 years old and it has been altered dramatically, I said. Sophia told me that vintage garments are incredibly delicate, especially when they have been cut and resized. The seams are unstable now. The fabric has been stressed. Victoria is planning to wear it for hours, to pose for photos, to dance and move around. Sophia said there is a very good chance the dress will not hold up under that kind of strain, especially given how much it has been altered. Understanding dawned on Theodore's face. You are going to let her wear a dress that might fall apart. I am going to let her make her own choice, I corrected. I am not sabotaging anything. I am just not warning her about the consequences of stealing and altering a vintage garment that was not hers to take. If the dress holds up, then she gets away with it and I still have my new dress and my dignity. But if it does not hold up, if it tears or splits or falls apart while she is wearing it in front of thousands of people on her live stream, well, that is just a natural consequence of her own actions. Theodore was quiet for a moment, then he pulled me into his arms. Your mother would be proud of you, he whispered. Not for the revenge, but for refusing to let Victoria steal your joy. For protecting her memory. I called Sophia the next morning and explained my plan. She was hesitant at first, worried that I was acting out of anger rather than reason. But when I explained that I simply wanted a new dress and wanted to let Victoria face the natural consequences of her actions, she agreed to help. She took new measurements and began working on a dress inspired by my mother's original but with modern touches, a gown that would honor Mom's memory while being entirely my own. Over the next week, I played my part perfectly. I went to Dad and Victoria's house for dinner and smiled sweetly at Victoria when she asked about wedding preparations. I thanked her for all her help and told her how much it meant to me that she was part of the celebration. I even asked her what she was planning to wear, and she showed me a picture on her phone of a navy blue mother of the bride dress that I knew she had no intention of actually wearing. That will be beautiful, I lied, and she smiled like a cat with cream. 3 days before the wedding, Victoria posted a TikTok teasing a major surprise at her stepdaughter's wedding. You guys are going to die when you see what I have planned, she said to the camera, her eyes glittering with excitement. Let's just say I found the perfect vintage look that is going to absolutely steal the show. Make sure you are tuned into my live stream on Saturday. You will not want to miss this. The comments were full of people speculating about what she was going to wear, with some of her followers joking that she was going to upstage the bride. Victoria hearted all of those comments. Theodore wanted to punch a wall. I told him to save his energy for the wedding day. The night before the wedding, I barely slept. I kept thinking about my mother, about how she would handle this situation. Mom was always the kind of person who believed in taking the high road and being graceful under pressure and letting people's own actions speak for themselves. I hoped I was doing the right thing. I hoped she would understand. The morning of the wedding was chaos in the best way. My bridesmaids, my college roommate Sophia Mitchell and my cousin Nia Parker, arrived at the venue early to help me get ready. Sophia Morales brought my new dress, and when I put it on, I felt beautiful and strong and entirely myself. It had the same romantic vintage feeling as Mom's original dress, but with clean modern lines and a fitted silhouette that felt more like me. Sophia had even incorporated a piece of lace from one of Mom's other dresses, something Victoria had not known about and therefore had not stolen, into the bodice as my something old. "You look perfect," Sophia said, tears in her eyes. "Like an absolute dream." Mia was more direct. "You look hot and Victoria is going to lose her mind when she realizes you are not wearing the dress she thinks you are wearing." I checked my phone. Victoria had already started her TikTok live stream from her hotel room, showing herself getting ready. She was in a robe, her hair and makeup done professionally, teasing her outfit to the camera. "Just wait until you see what I am wearing, guys," she said, giggling. "It is absolutely stunning. Very vintage, very elegant, very expensive. I cannot wait for everyone to see it." The comments were coming in fast, hundreds of people engaging with her, excited to see what she had planned. Her follower count was climbing in real time. The ceremony was set for 3 o'clock in the garden of a historic estate. It was a beautiful October afternoon, warm and sunny with just a hint of fall in the air. Guests began arriving, and I watched from a window as my father, looking handsome in his suit, greeted people and directed them to their seats. He looked happy, genuinely happy, and I felt a pang of sadness that this day was going to end with him seeing who Victoria really was. At 2:45, Victoria made her entrance. She swept into the venue like she was the bride herself, her phone held high to capture her arrival on the live stream. And she was wearing my mother's dress, or what was left of it. The alterations were obvious now that I knew what to look for. The dress hung differently on her smaller frame, the waist was cinched too tight, the bust was awkward, the hem was uneven. But Victoria was glowing with confidence, twirling for the camera and accepting compliments from guests who had no idea what they were looking at. "This is a 1958 Dior," she announced loudly to anyone who would listen, her phone still recording. "Custom made in Paris. A family heirloom." I just felt like today was the perfect day to honor a tradition, you know? I watched from inside the venue as my father approached her, his expression confused. "Victoria," he said, loud enough that I could hear through the open window, "what are you wearing? Is that Eleanor's dress?" Victoria's smile did not waver. "Oh, James, do not be so sentimental. Eleanor would have wanted someone to wear it instead of letting it rot in storage. And Charlotte clearly was not going to use it. She told me months ago she wanted something modern. So I thought, why not let it have one more moment in the spotlight? Besides, look how beautiful it looks on me. Your first wife had excellent taste." My father's face went pale. "Charlotte told you she wanted to wear that dress, Victoria. She told both of us. What did you do?" But before Victoria could answer, the ceremony music started. My bridesmaids began their walk down the aisle, and Victoria, flustered and annoyed at being questioned, hurried to her seat, still filming everything on her phone. I took my father's arm at the back of the aisle, and when he saw me in my new dress, his eyes filled with tears. "Charlotte," he whispered, "you look just like your mother. But that dress, it is not hers, is it?" "No, Dad," I said quietly. "I will explain everything later. But right now, I need you to walk me down this aisle and give me away to Theodore, okay? That is what Mom would want. Let's not let Victoria ruin this day." He nodded, squeezing my hand, and together we walked toward my future. The ceremony was beautiful. Theodore cried when he saw me, and I cried when he said his vows, and for those 30 minutes, I forgot about Victoria and the dress and everything else. It was just us, promising to love each other forever, surrounded by people who cared about us. But I could see Victoria in the front row, her phone propped up on the chair next to her, live streaming every moment. Her face was tight with confusion and anger. This was not going according to her plan. I was not wearing the dress she had expected. Her big moment of wearing the vintage Dior was being undermined by the fact that the actual bride was wearing something completely different. The reception was held in a beautiful ballroom with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the garden. Dinner was served, toasts were made, and the dancing began. Victoria was still filming, narrating everything for her followers, but I could see the cracks forming in her composure. People kept asking her about her dress, and she kept trying to redirect attention to how beautiful it was, how special, how meaningful. And then, during the mother-son dance, when Victoria decided to insert herself into the moment by joining Theodore and his mother on the dance floor to create content, it happened. There was a loud ripping sound, audible even over the music. Victoria froze, her eyes wide with horror. The entire side seam of the dress had split open, from her armpit to her hip, revealing her undergarments and skin beneath. The vintage silk, already stressed from decades of age and the dramatic alterations, had finally given way under the strain of movement and wear. The music stopped. Everyone turned to look. And Victoria's phone, still propped up and live streaming to her 75,000 followers, captured every second of her humiliation. She tried to hold the dress together, tried to laugh it off, but the damage was too extensive. The fabric continued to tear as she moved, splitting further with each desperate attempt to cover herself. Someone brought her a jacket, and she fled from the ballroom, her face red with embarrassment and rage, her phone left behind on the table, still broadcasting to thousands of people who were now commenting in real time about what had just happened. I caught my father's eye across the room. He looked devastated, but he also looked like he finally understood. The rest of the reception continued. Theodore and I danced our first dance, cut our cake, celebrated with our friends and family. I refused to let Victoria's disaster become the story of my wedding day. But I would be lying if I said there was not a small, vindictive part of me that felt satisfied watching karma work its magic. After the reception ended and Theodore and I had left for our honeymoon suite, my bridesmaids told me what happened next. Apparently, Victoria tried to salvage the situation by posting a tearful video to TikTok, claiming that the dress had been damaged by a jealous seamstress and that she had worn it to honor her stepdaughter's late mother. But her followers were not buying it. Someone had screen recorded her earlier comments about the dress being a family heirloom and about how she had taken it to have it altered to fit her. The comments turned vicious. People called her out for wearing white to someone else's wedding, for trying to upstage the bride, for stealing and altering what was clearly meant to be a family treasure. By the next morning, Victoria's TikTok account was flooded with negative comments. Several videos from the wedding had gone viral, not in the way she had hoped, but as examples of what not to do as a stepmother. Her follower count started dropping. People were calling her narcissistic, selfish, cruel. My father called me during our honeymoon, 3 days after the wedding. His voice was heavy with exhaustion and regret. "Charlotte, I owe you an apology," he said. "Actually, I owe you about 1,000 apologies. I have been blind, and I have been a coward, and I let Victoria hurt you in ways that your mother would never have forgiven." I sat on the balcony of our honeymoon suite, looking out at the ocean, and listened as my father explained everything. After the reception, he had confronted Victoria about the dress. She had admitted to taking it from storage, to having it altered, to replacing it with a replica, all of it. She claimed she had done it because she deserved to feel special too, because she was tired of living in Eleanor's shadow, because the dress was just gathering dust anyway. "I asked her to leave," Dad said quietly. "I told her that what she did was unforgivable, that she had violated your trust and your mother's memory, and that I could not be married to someone capable of that level of cruelty and deception. She is staying at a hotel while we figure out the divorce." I felt tears rolling down my cheeks, but they were not tears of sadness, not exactly. They were complicated tears, mourning the family dynamic I had hoped for, relieved that my father had finally seen the truth, angry that it had taken this long. "Dad," I said, "I am sorry you are going through this." "Do not be sorry," he replied. "I should have protected you better. I should have seen what she was doing. Your mother would be so disappointed in me." "Mom would understand," I told him. "She always said that people show you who they are eventually, and that when they do, you have to believe them. Victoria showed us who she is. You believed it. That is what matters." There was a long pause, and then Dad said something that made my heart squeeze. "I found something while going through the storage unit yesterday. Your mother's veil, the one she wore with the dress. Victoria did not know about it because I kept it separate, in a different box with some other items. It is completely untouched, Charlotte. I know the dress is gone, but I wanted you to have this. I thought maybe you could save it for your children someday, if you have them. Something of Eleanor's that Victoria could not steal. I thought about my mother, about the woman who had raised me to be strong and kind, who had taught me to protect the things that mattered and to let go of the things that did not. The dress was gone, altered beyond repair, but maybe that was okay. Maybe what mattered was not the physical object, but the memory it represented, the love it symbolized, the strength it gave me to stand up for myself. I would love that, Dad, I said. Thank you. 6 months have passed since the wedding. Theodora and I are settled into married life, navigating the beautiful mundane chaos of building a life together. My father is moving forward with the divorce from Victoria, and he is in therapy trying to work through his grief and his guilt about letting her into our lives. The house is slowly being restored, Mom's photos are back on the walls, her rose bushes have been replanted. Victoria's TikTok account never recovered. She tried to rebrand, tried to move on from the wedding dress incident, but the internet has a long memory. Her follower count continued to drop, and eventually, she deleted the account entirely. I heard through mutual acquaintances that she moved to a different state, trying to start over somewhere where people did not know her story. I do not hate her, which surprises me. I feel sorry for her, actually. Sorry that she was so desperate for attention and validation that she was willing to hurt people to get it. Sorry that she could not see the value in building real relationships instead of performing for strangers online. Sorry that she destroyed her marriage and her reputation over a dress. The replica dress, the fake one Victoria had made, is in a box in my closet. I thought about throwing it away, but I kept it as a reminder. Not a reminder of Victoria's betrayal, but a reminder that I am stronger than I thought I was. That I can face cruelty and manipulation and come out the other side with my integrity intact. That I can protect my mother's memory without letting anger consume me. My mother's veil sits in a special preservation box in our spare bedroom. Sometimes I take it out and hold it, run my fingers over the delicate lace, and remember her. Not the dress, not the drama, just her. Her laugh, her wisdom, her unconditional love. Theodore says that one day, when we have a daughter, we will tell her about her grandmother Eleanor, about how she was strong and kind and how she taught me to be the same. We will show her the veil and tell her that family treasures are not about the objects themselves but about the love they represent, about the connections that transcend time and death and betrayal. The wedding dress that my mother wore, the one that Victoria stole and destroyed, is gone. But my mother's love, her memory, her influence on who I am, those things are untouchable. Victoria could alter a dress, but she could never alter the bond between a mother and daughter. Not even death could do that. And in the end, that is the only thing that really matters. I am Charlotte Hayes Mitchell now, a married woman building a future with a man who loves me, who respects me, who would never ask me to sacrifice my mother's memory for his comfort. I have my father back, working every day to rebuild the trust that was damaged. I have friends who showed up for me when it mattered. I have a life full of possibility and hope. Victoria tried to steal my mother's dress, tried to steal my wedding, tried to steal my joy. She failed. And I am finally, completely free.